How's it going, everybody? My name is Noah Holly, and welcome back to another episode of the Pride Report. It is episode 13, and in today's show, I'm going to be digesting everything that went down last night. Big Monday was absolutely crazy. We had two epic collapses, we had two epic comebacks. I'm going to be covering it all over the next few minutes. This should be a good one, so if you've got a second, be sure to stick around while you mull your options. I'm going to go ahead and get this show on the road. Duke and Kansas were the respective winners of ESPN's Big Monday doubleheader last night, winning in crazy fashion. I'm so excited to talk about this with you guys. We're going to start with Miami's epic collapse, and then we're going to move on to West Virginia's collapse. The Hurricanes squandered a 13-point second-half lead against number 5 Duke last night, going completely silent on offense after Duke adjusted to the 2-3 zone. Gary Trent Jr. officially became a Blue Devil last night, scoring a career-high 30 points. For the first 30 minutes, Miami dominated transition, forced turnovers at a high clip, and found consistent success feeding the post and getting their big man DeJuan Hewell buckets. Duke, on the other hand, committed numerous unforced errors, wasted possessions with poor shot selection, and looked like an inexperienced, uncoordinated mess. After Marvin Bagley left with a shoulder injury, Duke just looked done and dusted. And then everything changed. In an instant, Bagley was back, Duke was dominant all of a sudden, Miami was ice cold, and the Blue Devils were leaving South Florida with a stunning win that seemed impossible just minutes before. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Now, I want you to understand that Duke has not suddenly cracked the code. They will probably look like an inexperienced, uncoordinated mess all over again a handful of times down the stretch. Duke showed how great it can be, yes, but it also showed how bad it can be. Duke has to improve as a team, not individually. Every single player in their rotation is extremely capable of taking over the game and being the hero, but that's not how Duke or any team is going to realize their potential. Duke will realize its potential only when every single possession is a team effort. Gary Trent played so well last night, largely in part due to how his teammates started playing together and setting up Trent, the hot hand, with high percentage looks. The potential of this team, the collection of talent, is so unimaginably high that Duke's play for a good portion of last night's game is absolutely unacceptable. This may not make sense to a casual basketball fan, but it's even more important for Duke to defend as a team. That's the biggest issue with this bunch. When they defend, it's just so out of sync at times and far from a team effort almost all the time. I don't know how possible it is for Duke to learn how to defend like a national champion on their own, so I think that in-game adjustments like the move to a zone last night will be frequent down the stretch. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up my thoughts on this team by saying this. It was a great, great win for the Blue Devils, and it will pay big dividends in the long run. There's no better way to get a team to understand how good it can be than to pull off a comeback like this. And about Miami, meh. Hewell is a stud. Lonnie Walker's playing great basketball right now. But in my opinion, this is just not a top 25 team. We will never see the Hurricanes win a game like Duke did last night. This team just doesn't respond well, not to a specific thing, but at all. Their poise and composure just seems to vanish into thin air when they're suddenly seriously challenged or run into something unexpected. Not sure if that made sense at all, but I tried. Anyway, let's go ahead and discuss the other big game last night, West Virginia and Kansas. Kansas knocked off West Virginia 71-66 last night. Devontae Graham had another huge performance, scoring 16. Svi Mikhailiuk added 17, and Kansas outscored West Virginia 43-25 in the second half to pull off one of the more improbable wins of 2017-18. Similar to the Duke-Miami game, I'm still trying to wrap my head around this one. Forgive me if I'm repeating myself during this segment. The first half was one-sided and uncompetitive in this one. West Virginia's defense was doing its thing, and Kansas was helping them out by committing multiple careless turnovers and suffering from poor execution around the basket. The shot blocking ability of West Virginia big man Sagaba Kanate was on full display as the sophomore swatted away nearly everything in his near vicinity. It felt more and more like a rout in the making with every emphatic rejection or wasted possession from Kansas. And then everything changed, similar to the way it did in the Duke-Miami game, but under even less probable circumstances. Devontae Graham kept the Jayhawks around until a series of defensive lapses from West Virginia, of all teams, allowed Kansas to get a couple of wide-open catch-and-shoot looks, which they drained to bring them within one heading into the under 4 media timeout. The Mountaineers, drained of all composure and confidence, had no one to turn to for reasons that I'm still trying to figure out, and what ensued was a comeback win for the ages. Now, you can't complete a comeback if you don't start one, and you can't start one if no one steps up and provides a spark. Devontae Graham provided that spark for Kansas last night. He put the team on his back and made some big-time plays to give Kansas an opportunity to win, and West Virginia had no answer once everyone started to click around Graham. I knew Graham was a great player, but I wasn't sold on his leadership skills until now. Meanwhile, West Virginia will be agonizing over this loss for years to come. How? How does a team with this much experience throw a game away like this? A lot of the blame is going to fall squarely on the backs of Javon Carter and Daxter Miles, the senior leaders of the Mountaineers who wilted down the stretch. These are two veterans who have found a way to win time and time again, but Monday they instead found a way to lose. We've come to expect so much better from these guys. If they can't step up and make plays, what is West Virginia supposed to do? And I have even more questions about West Virginia's defense down the stretch. The goal of intense perimeter pressure is to force teams to create shots and eliminate the catch and shoot, but there was an awful lot of catching and shooting going on in crunch time. You almost never see West Virginia get picked apart on defense. And when I say never, I seriously mean never. We were reminded Monday night that as strong as the competition is in their respective conferences, the road to an ACC title still runs through Durham, North Carolina, and the road to a Big 12 title still runs through Lawrence, Kansas. Duke and Kansas still have a long way to go, but at the end of the day, it's still Duke and Kansas that we're talking about here. Duke and Kansas weren't the only ranked teams to pull off crazy comebacks last night. 23rd ranked Michigan overcame a 14-point second half deficit in thrilling fashion to knock off Maryland and move to 5-2 in conference play. Maryland's Kevin Huerter hit a 3-point jumper on a beautifully executed final possession, and the Terps took a 67-66 lead with 3 seconds remaining. But it was not over just yet. Michigan's Muhammad Ali Abdur-Rahman caught the Hail Mary inbounds pass and was fouled by Bruno Fernando with 1 second remaining. He converted both free throws, and Michigan escaped. Tough win for the Wolverines, but what a brutal blow to Maryland's NCAA tournament hopes. There aren't many opportunities to earn a marquee win in the Big Ten, and this was one of them. Providence topped Butler 70-60 in midday Big East action. The Friars have won 3 in a row and are gaining some footing in the Big East. The tournament bid does not feel all that out of reach anymore for Ed Cooley's squad. Boston College held off Florida State 81-75, earning a surprise win there. The Seminoles lost their third out of their last 4 thanks to an abysmal performance from three-point land. They shot just 5 for 26 from downtown, which is crazy to think about considering the amount of shooting talent on the roster. The Eagles did a great job defensively on Florida State. Got to give them a lot of credit there. And they earned a critical home win. Illinois fell to 0-6 in the Big Ten after Nebraska's James Palmer Jr. hit the go-ahead three-pointer with seconds remaining. Finally, Baylor got back on track in the Big 12, dismantling Oklahoma State behind a monster night from Manu Lecomte. Let's talk a little bit about Tuesday's games. We've got a top 20 matchup tonight that I'm really looking forward to. 20th ranked Clemson will travel to face 15th ranked North Carolina at 7 p.m. Eastern on ACC Network. This game is huge for an abundance of reasons. Clemson has proven that they are named to know in the ACC this season, but nothing is going to turn heads like a win at Chapel Hill, where the Tigers are 0-58 all time. That's right. They have never won a game in the history of their basketball program at North Carolina. But this feels like the year that could change. The matchup of Dante Grantham and Luke May is extremely intriguing. Grantham, who played point guard in high school, is a unique matchup at the 4. These are 2 of the ACC's best scorers in the position, so I'm very curious to see who comes out on top in that individual matchup. A few of the ranked teams are in action. Oklahoma goes on the road to face Kansas State. I'm calling upset alert here. No one talks about K-State this season, but the Wildcats' big 3 of Barry Brown, Dean Wade, and Kamal Stokes ensure that they are going to be a tough challenge for anyone. Purdue will play host to Wisconsin, who should not pose much of a challenge to a Boilermaker squad that is winners of 13 straight. Cincinnati will go on the road to face UCF. UCF has a top 5 defense nationally, but they also score less points than nearly every team in college basketball. I cannot imagine the Golden Knights outscoring Cincinnati tonight. Kentucky's going to go on the road to play South Carolina until Kentucky proves me wrong and has an easy time beating an SEC team. I will continue to call upset alert whenever these guys play. Although as much as I want to like the South Carolina team that captured the hearts of every fan last March, they lost a ton of pieces from last year's Final Four group and shouldn't be a serious player in the conference race at any point this season. Notre Dame will host Louisville in this season's most surprising unranked matchup. Notre Dame has lost back-to-back. They will get Matt Farrell back for this one, which is a huge addition. They really need him. Louisville is playing some of their best basketball of the season. Other than that, not that much else on the slate tonight, so let's go ahead and move right along. Over the next month and a half, I'm going to be breaking down every single mid-major conference. Today, I'm going to be talking about the A10. Now, the Atlantic 10 is not a very good conference this season. In years past, there were 4 or 5 teams out of this league that I was talking about come Champ Week. This season, there's Rhode Island and essentially nobody else. Dayton and VCU have taken big steps back. Weird teams like Duquesne and St. Bonaventure are surprisingly competitive, and everyone else has 9 or 10 wins and 11 or 12 losses and make up the bulk of the middling pool of mediocrity that is the A10 behind URI. Here's a quick look at the standings. Hopefully, I remember to expand the graphic to show the overall records of each of these teams. If I did, you'll understand what I'm talking about when I use colorful terms like middling pool of mediocrity. I mean, what pops out to you here other than Rhode Island? Heck, I'm not even sure Rhode Island pops out to me. Here's the thing about the Atlantic 10 in 2017-18. I actually don't anticipate it being a one-bid league, which everyone with a Twitter account has been labeling it this winter. I think it's actually going to be a 2-bid league because I think that Rhode Island is only going to lose 1 or 2 games in conference play and qualify for an at-large bid regardless of how the conference tournament shakes out. And someone like Fordham or George Mason is going to win the tournament. You really can't differentiate these teams in this league past the top 3 or 4. Honestly, you really can't differentiate the teams in this league past Rhode Island. They're all pretty bad. So someone is going to be put in an undeserved position to make some noise and miraculously do just that. This conference tournament is going to be the ugliest, but at the same time, most beautiful basketball concoction the Hoops gods have ever blessed us with, and I absolutely cannot wait. My prediction for the final standings is a crumpled up piece of paper. I tried to make a prediction that I'll be confident enough to put up in a graphic on this show, but I couldn't, guys. I'm sorry. It's just no one has any idea how this league is going to turn out. It is seriously, it would be a phenomenal waste of my time. So I'm just going to avoid that for now. Perhaps in one episode I'll get to it. That is going to wrap up that segment. I hope you enjoyed it. Tomorrow I'm going to be taking a look at the Atlantic Sun. But for now, that is all I have time for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw here, remember to subscribe. It really helps us out here at CPP. Also, be sure to follow the show on Twitter at CPP Pride Report. As always, I'll put links in the description below. Be sure to join me tomorrow for episode 14, where I will be talking some hoops with a special guest. We're going to be doing a buy or sell and talk some NBA draft, so you don't want to miss that. But unfortunately, I have run out of time for today's episode, so I'm going to end it right here and sign off for now. I will see you tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen.